Video game writer Rafael Chandler has written for many successful video games. He's currently working on MAG for the PlayStation 3. Donna caught up with him to find out what it's like to have a career writing for games.
All these great stories and games actually come from somewhere. Someone has to think of them and then write them. What's your role in that, Rafael?
Well, I'm a freelance game writer. I work for studios like Sony and Sega. I used to work as an in-house writer at Ubisoft. And most of what I do is I write dialogue, I create the stories, cast and occasionally direct voice actors.
I told you to keep out of our way.
Write and occasionally direct cinematics, all of that.
What are some of the titles that you've worked on where we've actually played some of your work and maybe not even known it?
I recently worked on SOCOM Confrontation. I wrote the in-game dialogue for that multiplayer-based game on the PS3.
The mercenaries have captured a control point.
I worked on the Tom Clancy games like Ghost Recon 2, Rainbow Six Lockdown, and so forth. Mainly I work on squad-based tactical shooters. So I do a lot of military research. I read a lot of the Tom Clancy novels and novels by similar writers. And I do watch a lot of TV shows and movies that are based on life in the military, Generation Kill, Band of Brothers, and so forth, to try to capture the authenticity of what it's really like in the field.
War games, shooting games, we've seen them, we've played them, we love them, but there's actually a new direction that Sony's trying to take them in. Tell me about that.
So MAG, the massive action game, is a code name for a new project currently in development at Zipper Interactive. And it is the largest online shooter on a console. It's 256 players, 128 versus 128. It's massive. And I've actually played it at the studio. It's in development, and it looks gorgeous. I can't tell you too much about the game, but its theme it's unique. It's a different step for Zipper Interactive. It's a new direction. And it's very interesting stuff.
I think as we continue to see more and more games come out, different companies definitely focus more on different elements, and the narration of the game and the actual narrative in the story is becoming more and more important, and we see it frequently in different styles of gameplay. Why do you think the first-person shooter is one where we don't necessarily, link to the plot as we do with, for example, an RPG?
I wonder if it has something to do with the disconnect, whereas in an RPG you might actually see your character and get a lot of cutscenes to flesh out the personality. Oftentimes in a shooter, they minimize the cinematics, and so you rarely get to see or hear the character in any detail. And there is an immediacy to the first-person shooter. You really want to get in there, you want to get into the action, and any pause is perceived as kind of a cutoff of that action.
Where do you think we're going to see narrative in games go in the future?
It's hard for me to predict. I'm often wary of predictions, but I would say that ultimately I think we're going to see a lot more focus on non-linear narrative. Similar to what's going on in games like Fallout 3 or Oblivion or GTA, where the player is in many ways the author of the narrative, and the writer creates the context. You create a number of possibilities. You create a world that's rich and fleshed out. The player is the one who gets to decide which direction the narrative actually goes in, so it's not a linear movement from A to B to C. And I think that's a very tricky style, but it's being done. I mean, we're seeing games that push the boundaries, so I think it'll be a very interesting frontier to explore.
I'm really looking forward to playing MAG, but Sony, come on, I hate that title. MAG stands for Massive Action Game. Come on, we have more creativity than that.